um, all right, apparently, Dave and Tony must be running late or something. So I think we can start the first hearing, and hopefully one of them will come in for the second, third hearings. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Patrick, Hans,
I'm fine with it.
Yes.
I gotta turn up the volume. I can hardly hear. Okay. With that, I am going to proceed with the first hearing with 4 members. And what that does is you need to get 4 out of 4. First, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lunenburg Zoning Board of Appeals. I have to read a notice. I'm hopeful that this is the last time I'll have to read it because I'm hopeful we'll be coming out with regular meetings, open meetings. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with Governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be broadcast live through local access cable on Facebook Live on the public access Facebook page. It's https://www.facebook.com/Lunenburg/public access cable, and it will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link join Zoom meeting, https://us02web.zoom.us/j/ the meeting ID 896-840-12186. Topic is zoning board of appeals meeting, June 9th, 2021, 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and an email address. Note, no participant ID is needed. Just press the pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. The first hearing, the Lunenburg Zoning Board will hear the petition of Greg P. Croto, 82 Laurel Lane, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462. Property that is the subject of this case is 84 Laurel Lane, Lunenburg, Mass. The petition is seeking a special permit for dimensional variation to demolish 2 existing buildings and construct 1 new dwelling as per submitted plans. The Zoning Board of Appeals will consider authorizing the special permit, and any correspondence received in support or opposition to the petition will be read into the public record. And with that, Lisa, I would ask you to please read the first petition.
A point of order, Mr. Chairman. Do you just want to do a roll call?
Yeah, I'm
Attendance?
sorry, you are correct. Thank you.
Welcome.
First, we have Lisa Normandin, Board Secretary. Jim Bezakowski,
Yeah.
Hans Winthrop,
Here.
and Patrick Callahan,
Here.
and I'm Alfred Gravel. Yeah. I'll go on with how the hearing is to proceed. Lisa will read the application and any other submitted communications. The applicant will have the opportunity for comments on the application or submission of additional documents. If you'd like to speak, give your name and address. Board members will have the opportunity to ask questions that they might have on the application while you are at the mic. There will be a public comment period, and please address all comments and questions to the board. And this is for a special permit to vary dimensional requirements. And there are additional requirements beside the special permit, and they are: the permit may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially degrading from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. The specific site is an appropriate location for such building or alteration. The proposed building or alteration is compatible with the existing neighborhood with regard to size, location, and architecture. The granting of the special permit will not adversely affect the neighborhood. The granting of the special permit will not unreasonably diminish available light, air, sunlight, and other amenities, and there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. And with that, Lisa, I would ask you to please read the petition. I got a little ahead of myself.
Okay, this is an application for a special permit. Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. The name of the applicant is Greg Croto, 82 Laurel Lane, Lunenburg, Mass. And he is seeking a special permit for dimensional variation to remove 2 existing buildings and construct 1 new building. The proposed use has not begun. The basis for this application is found in the following section of the Code of Lunenburg, Section 258.3B2D. The street address of the property is 84 Laurel Lane, assesses map 99, parcel 32. Name and address of each holder of legal title to the land, which is the subject of this case, is Greg P. Croto of 82 Laurel Lane in Lunenburg, Mass. And the deed was recorded in Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, book 8769, page 146, and recorded February 28th, 2017. The answers to the questions are as follows, the special permit questions. A, will the proposed action be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion, or other reasons? The reply, traffic congestion will not be an issue. Replacing a single-family home with another single-family home. Demolition will be done without heavy machinery as there is adequate room on the property for dumpsters and light equipment. This is a dead-end street. B, will this action have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities of the neighborhood? The reply, the rebuild of this dilapidated structure will improve the value of surrounding properties and aesthetically be a dramatic improvement. C, will the proposed action be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if an open use? The reply, demolition material will be disposed of in an orderly fashion and rebuild will take place at appropriate hours not to disturb neighbors during early morning hours or after 5 p.m. D, will the proposed action produce noise, vibration, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property? The reply, demolition and construction will be manual without the use of heavy equipment. All of the above will be minimalized with no effect on the adjacent property. Additional information. The proposal is based on the land manager's preference not to have 2 structures on parcel 32. The build of the proposed structure would replace 2 non-conforming structures. The first structure would be eliminated. That would be eliminated is 2 feet from the property line of parcel 31 and 18 feet from the road. The setback from street would improve from 18 to 25 for the proposed structure compared to a second non-conforming structure, which is also currently 18 feet from the street. And that was signed by May 11th by Greg Croto. I have a letter from the building inspector. I have reviewed the application and have following comments. Property in question is parcel ID 99-32 and is located at 84 Laurel Lane. Parcel currently has 2 pre-existing structures on it. One appears to be a former single-family home, which is no longer in use, and the other is a garage with an apartment above the garage, also not appearing to be in use. The parcel is in the Residence A zoning district. Proposed work is the demolition of both structures and the reconstruction of a new single-family home of slightly larger dimensions. The provided plot plan is not certified, but it shows a front yard setback of 25 feet, side yard setbacks of 15 feet and 26 feet, and a rear yard setback of 45 feet. With this knowledge, the applicant would be required to get a special permit to vary dimensional requirements for the front yard setback in the amount of 15 feet of relief from the board per section 258.3B2D of the zoning bylaw. I would recommend, if granted, a condition be made to require a certified site plan to be done to show actual distances to lot lines. This will be a requirement in order for a building permit to be issued. I also received a letter from an abutter dated May 28th, 2021. We have been abutters to the properties at 82 and 84 Laurel Lane since October of 1968. For us, that means having experienced 4 owners of the property during all those years, with Greg Croto being the most recent and the one to do the most improvements to the property. We wholeheartedly endorse Greg's application for a special permit to demolish the 2 existing buildings and construct 1 new dwelling. Over the years before Greg purchased the properties, the 2 dwellings at 84 Laurel Lane had been unoccupied and fallen into disrepair. During his ownership of the property at 82 Laurel Lane, Greg has made substantial improvements and has been a genuinely great neighbor. Granting this special permit would be a good thing for Greg and a wonderful thing for us in the neighborhood. Sincerely, Richard N. Milu and Sandra Milu of 88 Laurel Lane. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, I would invite the applicant, Greg, if you would like to add anything, please do at this time.
No, I don't think I have really anything to add. I have a couple of neighbors that were unable to get onto the Zoom call. No, I don't have anything to add, and I guess mainly open to questions. I guess I will add one thing. I did see somebody was looking at the lot the other day, and one thing that I didn't put on the plans, which is kind of a factor in placement of the 2 properties that are there now in the proposed property, is there are water lines that run along the side of the property. If you're looking at the lot layout to the right, there's a smaller building. The water lines come from the street along that smaller building to straight down the property line, roughly about 26 feet from the property line. And there are three water lines, one for the 2 houses that are there on that lot. One goes down to my house, which is at 82. And then the one that goes down to my house at 82 then forks off to my neighbor's house at 88. So that's kind of a limiting factor too that I've taken into account with the proposal to remove 2 structures and replace one, is, not disturbing or going through the expense of relocating those water lines. And if I didn't make that clear where those water lines are, I'm certainly open to questions to make that a little clearer. But I didn't put that on the on the drawing of where the foundations are. But it's a little bit of a factor as to what could be done with the building of a new structure on that property.
Okay, so those water lines, they feed 3 homes?
Yes, well, I guess they feed 4 homes. They feed the two homes that are there that are not inhabited right now. My home and my neighbor's house facing the road to the right. Dick Mayo, the one who wrote the letter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and with that, I would open it up to any member of the board that has any questions.
I'm assuming that you have water and sewerage on the from the town. Is that correct?
That is correct. I received the layout from the town as to where the sewer lines are located from not only my house at 82, which is set behind these 2 properties, but also these 2 properties are my understanding is they're connected to the sewer, at least according to the town. I wouldn't know for sure because they've not been inhabited since I've owned them. But I do have a schematic of where the sewer lines are and how they're connected to the 3 properties, the two I'm wanting to demolish and mine.
And I'm assuming from your diagram, we haven't seen anything relative to, there's no garage involved, correct? This is just a living dwelling?
The proposed structure?
Yes.
The proposed structure is just a footprint right now. I haven't gone through the design stage of that because I'm concerned about, putting too much cost into the project before approval. So this is more, I would certainly obviously have to have a full-blown set of plans, and there probably would be maybe a single car garage in this structure, but I did not outline that at this point.
But you're saying it would be part of the structure that you're proposing?
Yes, part of that footprint, there might be a garage in there. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll follow up on Jim's questions to the applicant. On that, I was just looking at the plans. So right now you have two pre-existing non-conforming lots. How do you know that the new lot that you've outlined here, the new building is going to meet all the setbacks in that zone? Do you know that you're gonna be able to do that? I went down there, that lot is small.
Yeah, so the dimensions are on, so here's kind of the catch 22 about the where the houses are now versus where the proposed house should be, is when do you do the survey? I don't know what the right answer is, but I think it would be better to do the survey after the houses are demolished, to locate the property where it's outlined on a diagram, than to survey where the ones are now that will be demolished. But I leave that as a question to the zoning board. But there are very clear markers on the property as to where the borders are, where the property line is.
Yeah, and I don't dispute that. I mean, typically what we find is we see in a plan like this where you would come in and, an engineer would have a stamped plan that says, okay, here are all the markings on the existing plot plan. And then they would overlay that with the new, building and where that is, and then be able to tell us, where you stand in terms of the zoning and whether you meet all the setbacks. Because, for instance, you're asking for certain relief today, but how do we know with certainty that that is in fact what you're asking for and what you need? So that's my only concern. Okay. And you're right. I mean, there is a certain expense to it. The other question becomes, how much bigger on the square footage? I'm looking at the, the document that you supplied that has all the dimensions on it. Do you roughly know what the two combined living areas are and then what the proposed living area is?
I could look at the tax information. Maybe that would help. But I don't think they have the garage. I think they're about the same when you add the two houses that are there together. The two houses individually might be a little bit more than the proposed structure.
Okay.
But it's going to be very close.
The property card had 496, square feet of finished area. I just want to make sure that, what you're telling us is really truthful. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying that usually it's a lot easier when an engineer comes in and gives us, meets and bounds to be able to say, okay, you meet all the setbacks and this is what you need.
Right. And I certainly would have, certainly will have that done with the new structure to prove that it meets the setbacks that I'm applying for. The only setback I'm concerned about is the one from the street. The one from the property lines to the right would be very easy to conform to because there's water lines there, and I don't want to go near those water lines. And then to the left side is we would do the 15 feet, and I would have that done and shown to you professionally. And then there's lots of room from the opposite side of the street to my house, 45 feet that I'm proposing. So the only variance I'm looking for is from the road. But I would certainly have it all certified when I submit the house plans. And if I have to modify the house plan a little bit to meet the requirements, instead of 44 feet across, be 42 feet, whatever I need to do, I'll do to meet the requirements. Aside if I'm just asking for the setback from the road variance.
The other considerations that we have is the number of stories. I noticed the house one of the properties appears to be like a 1 or 1.5 story structure. The other appears to be a 2-car garage with a loft. There are height restrictions that are a consideration. as far as how far away from the lot lines they would be, what type of roof, whether or not there would be impeded view from the neighbors. I noticed there's a lot of trees in the property around there. So that probably, and not many neighbors, so there's no problem with that apparently. But the height to, footage ratio, those are all considerations too, rather than just a blanket permit saying, yeah, you have a right to build on this piece of property in this footprint, but we have to consider how high and other things too.
Okay, just to answer part of your question, one of the things that Casey had put in his recommendation was required to have a certified site plan be done and show all the actual distances to the lot lines. And we certainly would put that in as a condition of any permit. I think that what I'm looking at is right now, these places are almost on the road. He's actually moving it back, which would make him more compliant with the front yard setback at this time. And I agree with Hans and that there are other considerations, but if we allow the front setback, the only thing we are allowing is the front setback. So if there is anything else after he makes up his plans and goes to Casey and Casey reviews it, he would have to come back to us if there was a height issue, James, or if there was a side yard issue, he would have to come back. This wouldn't give him the right to build whatever he wants. The only relief we would give him tonight is the front yard, if we were so inclined to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I would just say, I guess I had all those questions when I first looked at this, but now that I kind of understand a little better that you're just looking for the front and then to be determined on the rest of it, I suppose. Which, like you said, would have to come back if anything happens. So, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and I notice, Nick, you have arrived. I don't know, I believe you were here for the whole hearing, correct? I can't hear him, he's muted.
Yeah, I heard
Oh.
the whole hearing.
Okay, all right.
I have
good.
no questions.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I have no questions. You guys
Oh,
pretty much
sorry, I
covered
thought
them.
you said you had a question.
No, I'm good.
Casey is here. Casey, do you have any comments?
Not too many comments. I did, me and Adam Burney, the land use director, did speak to Mr. Croto previously. He had a different plan that involved two buildings. So this is more conforming than the previous plan. So I think this is kind of the second rendition of his design. So
Okay.
I've gone over, the project with him a little bit previously. So I think you guys covered everything though.
All right, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Okay, Patrick, then I will go to the public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak?
I don't see anybody at this time, but if anybody would like to speak, either raise your hand or yell into the microphone, please. Still not, sir.
Okay, if there's nobody from the public, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the special permit to allow for the 25-foot variance from is requested, and that as mentioned by the building inspector, certified plot plan be developed before for further considerations moved on and a building permit is issued.
Okay, thank you. The second,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. I'll call for a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, is it 25 feet we're voting on?
Wait a minute,
That was 15 for some reason.
15, corrected.
Okay, I will correct that. Thank you.
Just for clarity, maybe I'm misunderstanding you guys, but I'm asking for 25 from the road, from 18 to 25, so not 15. But maybe you're talking about 15 additional. I'd have to do the math.
Hold on.
I don't need to be, yes, just to be clear, I want to go from 18 feet.
I want to be
25
very
feet.
clear.
18
I'm
to
looking at
25.
the sheet, the proposed structure with a 25-foot distance as listed.
Right.
Uh,
The requirement is 40 feet, so he needs 15 feet of room.
Oh, that's for, okay, I misunderstood. So I just wanted to be sure you understood what I was asking for. Thank you.
Yeah, a setback of 25 feet with a 15 feet of relief from the board.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I did second that, but I will second the correction.
Okay, with that, I will call for a vote. Hans,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
uh, Nick,
Nick.
Aye.
and I am an aye. So with that, the special permit is granted. And I do have to read one more thing. The post instructions. The special permit is granted with the contingency that the petitioner complies with all licenses, regulations, statutes, ordinances of any and all applicable local, state, federal boards or agencies with jurisdiction over the premises. The special permit is subject to a periodic review by the permit granting authority or enforcement officer to ensure compliance with any conditions. Non-compliance to such conditions may result in revocation of the permit. A copy of the board's decision shall be filed with the town clerk within 14 days. Any party aggrieved by the board's decision may appeal to Superior Court 20 days after the decision is filed with the town clerk. After certification by the town clerk that 20 days have elapsed since the decision was filed, you should have it recorded in the Registry of Deeds. No special permit shall take effect until it has been recorded. And you do have a condition as we noted. And with that, I wish you luck with your tear down and rebuild.
Thanks for your time, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Look,
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, as I said, there are 3 hearings tonight, so we'll go directly into the next hearing. The next hearing is the petition of Baraka Pitaho, 17, and I apologize if I say your name completely wrong. 17 High Street, Leominster, Mass. The property which is the subject of this case is owned by 420 Mass Ave Realty Trust, James Finelli, 27 Larch Street, Pittsburgh, Mass. And the location is 420 Mass Ave, Lunenburg. The petitioner is seeking a special permit to operate an automotive repair shop. The Zoning Appeals would consider authorizing a special permit. Correspondence received in support or opposition will be read into the public record. And with that, Lisa, I would ask you to read the next petition.
Okay, this is an application for a special permit, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. The name and address of the applicant is Baraka Batario, 17 High Street, Leominster, Mass. 01453. He is seeking a special permit to operate an auto repair shop. The proposed use has not begun. The basis for this application is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw. Section 250-4.L2. The street address of the property is 420 Mass Ave, Lunenburg. Assessors map 73-37. Name and address of each holder of legal title to the land, which is the subject of this case, is 420 Mass Ave Realty Trust, care of James Finelli, 27 Larch Street in Fitchburg, Mass. And the deeds recorded in Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 5611, page 50, and recorded March 1st, 2005. If the undersigned has any knowledge of a prior appeal, application, or petition concerning the land or building involved in this case, describe the case and the dates involved. A special permit was granted to Leslie Sabity, does business as Les's Auto Repair, and that was granted to Les's Auto on January of 2008, but he has since relocated. The special permit questions and answers are as follows. Will the proposed action be injurious or dangerous to the public health or duly unhazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion or other reasons? The response, no, repairs will be done inside the building in designated work areas. B, will this action have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities of the neighborhood? The reply, no painting or welding that will be performed. All waste oil will be removed safely and kept in designated areas. C, will the proposed action be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if in open use? C, the outside of the building will be kept clean and neat and the landscape kept up. D, will the proposed action produce noise, vibration, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines and amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property? The response, all vehicles will be repaired inside the building. Therefore, there will not be any noise, vibration, smoke, or dust from the parking lot or any parking spot from outside. And that's signed by Baraka Vitario on May 2021. The building inspector has submitted a letter. I have reviewed the application, have the following comments. Property in question is parcel 73-37 and located at 420 Mass Ave. Is currently being used as an automotive repair facility and is in the commercial zoning district. Proposed uses for a new party to continue using this facility in the same approximate manner with no physical changes to take place. With this information, the applicant would need a special permit under table 4.1L2 to continue this auto repair facility in the commercial district as outlined per condition number 10 of the special permit issued on January 22nd, 2008 from the Zoning Board of Appeals. That condition states that the granting of the special authorization shall inure to the benefit of of the applicant and shall cease in the event the business is sold or sublet to another party. There's also a list of abutters attached. The deed, the standard form of commercial lease, to lease it to Mr. Vitario from Mr. Finelli. Also, there's a map, I think that was submitted with the prior application showing where the parking spaces are and the layout of the property. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
And with that, I would invite the applicant to add anything or whatever you would like to say.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Let me turn up. I couldn't quite hear what you said. Okay, so if he has nothing to say, if there's any questions from the board.
By his application and what I've read, I'm assuming that everything would be transferred over to his leasing of the property. And we would condition all conditions as previously filed, including hours of operation, unless he would like to request any different hours than what we have recorded as 7 to 30 a.m. to 5:30 Monday through Friday, Saturday 8 to 2. All other conditions would be the same and re-enumerated exactly as what we have in the past.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Would you like to answer that, please?
I agree to the previous conditions.
You agree to the previous conditions, okay. What's your experience in automotive repair? Have you been there before?
Could you ask the question again?
I'm just wondering, what's your experience in the automotive repair? You've had shops before?
Yes, so we started in 2016. And we actually moving to Nuremberg because it's a larger building.
Okay, all right. That place I noticed, at one point became a metal fabricating company. Is that correct? You don't know, or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, because the sign's still on the building. I kind of remember it, but I just wanted to know if you, and I didn't remember Les being in there. Okay, any other questions from the board?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
So as far as vehicles you plan on repairing, will just be customer vehicles, right? You won't be storing any vehicles on the property that will be in need of disrepair?
No storing of vehicles.
No storing of vehicles, you just have customer vehicles in and out. Any vehicle that will be on the property will be roadworthy, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any other questions from the board?
I just had one question, Mr. Chairman. Are we going to assume the same conditions, all the conditions that we typically have for the automotive folks that come in?
I believe yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the previous conditions, just so we're crystal?
Yes, would you please, Lisa?
Thank you.
The granting of this special permit is authorization to the legal owner to provide, okay, that one wouldn't apply. All auto repairs must be conducted indoors. Parking is limited to 8 vehicles, 6 customer parking spaces, and 2 employee spaces. A dumpster not to exceed 15 yards will be placed on the Hollis Road side of the property. All loading and unloading of vehicles to be done off-street for safety purposes. No parts, materials, or tools shall be displayed or stored out of doors. No junk, as that term is hereinafter defined, shall be stored or maintained out of doors. As used herein, the term junk shall mean any work out, cast off, or discarded articles or materials which are ready for destruction or which have been collected or stored for salvage or conversion to some use. The business hours for the auto repair shop will be 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturday 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The petitioners shall conduct the business in all times so as not to be offensive to the residential abutters. The granting of the special authorization shall inure to the benefit of the applicant and shall cease in the event the business is sold or sublet to another party.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I noticed there is a residential right next door, and I also noticed the plates. Are you gonna do some landscaping and I noticed the building has been vacant for a while.
I'll be taking care of the landscaping. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant from the board?
I just had one quick question on the layout of the building. Are you taking over the entire building or is that left, or I guess if you're standing in the road, is that left bay, is that not included? There's kind of like an overhead that's off to the left, kind of towards Hollis Road all by itself.
I'm not doing that one. I'm only checking at the main.
Okay, I got you. Okay,
Okay,
another question. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone from the public, if there's no more questions from the board?
I do not see any hands raised. Yeah, no, I think I don't see any.
Okay, and with that then, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the special permit with the conditions that Lisa outlined numbers 2 through 10.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for a roll call vote. Hans Winthrop,
Aye.
James Bezakowski,
Aye.
Patrick Callahan,
Aye.
Tony Nacastro,
Aye.
Anthony. And I say aye. And with that, the permit is granted. Special.
Thank you.
And again, I have to read just the post instructions. The special permit is granted with the contingency that petitioner complies with all licenses, regulations, statutes, ordinances, and any and all applicable local, state, and federal boards or agencies with jurisdictions over the premises. The special permit is subject to a periodic review by the permit granting authority or the enforcement officer to ensure compliance with any conditions. Non-compliance to such conditions may result in a revocation of the permit. A copy of the board's decision shall be filed with the town clerk within 14 days. Any party aggrieved by the board's decision may appeal to Superior Court 20 days after the decision is filed with the town clerk. After certification by the town clerk, 20 days have elapsed since the decision was filed. You should have it recorded in the registry of deeds. No special permit shall take effect until it has been recorded. And with that, we wish you good luck with your new auto repair.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
luck.
Good luck. Welcome to town.
Yes. Okay. And with that, we will move right on to the third hearing of the night. The third hearing is the applicants are requesting relief from the Lunenburg bylaw, section 250-8.3B2D for a dimensional variance. The applicants seek a special permit and/or a variance on the following request: to open a retail marijuana establishment in a commercial zone in rear unit of 88 Mass Ave, 178.9 feet setback from the property line of 89 Mass Ave, which contains a residential use, where 250 feet is required under the zoning bylaw table of uses 4.10.4. The applicants are requesting a dimensional variance of 71.1 feet from 88 Mass Ave, Unit 1 to the property line of 89 Mass Ave. Please note that the back exterior wall of 88 Mass Ave, Unit 1 exceeds the 250 feet setback, while the interior front wall is 178.9 feet from the property line of 89 Mass Ave. And with that, Lisa, I would ask that you would please read this petition.
Okay, it's applied for as an appeal for variance. I
Correct.
think the building inspector clarified that it's going to be a special permit for a dimensional variation.
Okay,
So I'll leave that.
actually, was going to bring that up after you had read it, that the variance part, and Casey, you can please answer too, but the variance part, there is just, it doesn't apply at all. And a variance, it has to be the topography of the land. It has to be something unique about the land and the use that this property just doesn't have. And it has to be different than the rest of the zoning, and it's just not there. So they can't, although they answered all of the questions under the variance. Question 1 is circumstances relating to soil condition, shape, or topography of such land or structures, especially affecting such land or structures, but not generally the zoning district in which it is located. There's in the Lunenburg zone that cannot be satisfied, in my opinion, on this lot. And with that, I would ask if any board member agrees or disagrees, or if the building inspector would like to comment.
I can comment. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the variance, you need special, unique characteristics of the lot to be a variance. So I think Lunenburg purposely uses the term special permit for these because it's a little easier to obtain and you don't need to have such specific requirements to meet. So in this case, it would be a special permit for dimensional variation, not a variance.
Okay, thank you. Hans, did you have any questions? I had noticed that you had sent me a email. Unfortunately, I didn't see it until.
No, I think it was just this, whether this, I mean, when I read the application, it went back between a special permit dimensional variation and a variance. So I wanted, because a variance obviously is much harder threshold, which the applicant does not meet, which is what you mentioned. But I just wanted to make sure what we were voting on,
Okay, thank you.
because it was ambiguous.
And with that, Lisa, I would ask you to please read the petition.
Okay, the name and address of the applicant is Anavasi LLC, 28 Clement Road, West Townsend, Mass. And Greenleaf Botanicals Incorporated of 104 Winthrop Lane in Holden, Mass. 01520. The undersigned hereby petitions as follows. The applicants are requesting relief from Lunenburg's bylaw, section 258.3B2D for dimensional variation. The applicants seek a special permit and or variance on the following requests to open a retail marijuana establishment in a commercial zone in the rear of 88 Mass Ave. 178.9 feet setback from the property line of 89 Massachusetts Ave, which contains a residential use where 250 feet is required under the zoning bylaw table of uses 4.10.4. The applicants are requesting the dimensional variation of 71.1 feet from 88 Mass Ave, Unit 1, to the property line of 89 Mass Ave. Please note, the back exterior wall of 88 Mass Ave, Unit 1, exceeds the 250 setback, while the interior front wall is 178.9 feet from the property line of 89 Massachusetts Avenue. The application, the proposed action has not begun. The basis for this application is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw. Section 258.3B2D. Street address is 88 Massachusetts Avenue in Lunenburg and 89 Massachusetts Avenue. The assessors map and parcel is 76-2 and 76-44. The name and address of each legal holder of title to the land, which is the subject of this case, is Anavasi LLC, 28 Clement Road, West Townsend, Mass. 01474, owns 88 Massachusetts Avenue, and Cynthia P. Gagney, 348 Lunenburg Street, Suite 201, Fitchburg, Mass. 01420, owns 89 Massachusetts Avenue. They have no knowledge of a prior appeal. And I will read the questions and answers that they have provided. The basis for this appeal for a variance from the terms of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw is the contention that the following provisions of the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 10 have been satisfied. A, circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography, or such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not generally the zoning district in which it is located, are the rear unit 1 in a commercial building at 88 Massachusetts Avenue. The location of a proposed retail marijuana establishment is surrounded by a commercial district on all sides. The entrance to 88 Massachusetts Avenue is across from 89 Massachusetts Avenue, a commercial parcel containing a quasi-residential use. The parcel of 89 Massachusetts Ave is also surrounded by commercial properties. Both parcels face and are directly situated on Route 2A, Massachusetts Avenue, a heavily traveled Massachusetts State Highway located in the commercial district. The Lunenburg bylaw 254.15 table of uses 4.10.4 requires a minimum setback of 250 feet from a residential zone for a retail marijuana establishment. Said proposed marijuana establishment is to be located in the rear unit of the commercial building located at 88 Massachusetts Avenue. The back exterior wall of 88 Massachusetts Avenue, Unit 1, exceeds the 250-foot setback, and the interior wall in Unit 1 is 178.9 feet from the property line of 89 Massachusetts Avenue. B, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the undersigned for the following reason. Provision of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw 4.15, specifically 4.10.4, regarding 250 feet of setback would result in a substantial hardship for this applicant, such that the applicant would not be able to obtain a community host agreement for the 88 Massachusetts Avenue Unit 1 location, preventing the retail store from being established. This would also result in a substantial loss of tax revenue to the town of Lunenburg from expected retail sales. This hardship is peculiar to the property at 88 Massachusetts Avenue and is not self-created. C, desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good for the following reasons. The subject property, 88 Massachusetts Avenue, Unit 1, is located in a commercial zone. The surrounding properties within 300 feet are located in a commercial zone. The property in question, 89 Massachusetts Avenue, is a commercial property with quasi-residential designation on the tax assessor's roll. In addition, to the best of our knowledge, the property is believed to be unoccupied and not used as a residential dwelling. Therefore, the granting of the requested dimensional variance will not affect the use and value of 89 Massachusetts Avenue, nor the dimensional variance will not, therefore, the granting of the requested dimensional variance will not affect the use and value of 89 Massachusetts Avenue, nor the adjacent properties in a substantially adverse manner. Approval of this dimensional variance is consistent with the commercial development in this commercial area. The dimensional variance requested is relatively small, 71.1 feet, and will be visually insignificant and will be in harmony with the overall commercial makeup of the area. D, the variance desired may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning bylaw. The strict application of the terms of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because of the dimensions of the subject property in conjunction with the setback requirement of 250 feet, make it an impractical difficulty for the petitioner to establish a retail marijuana establishment on this site. If the setback of 250 feet is strictly imposed, the retail marijuana establishment cannot be located on this lot at 88 Massachusetts Avenue, Unit 1. The approval of the said dimensional variation will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the surrounding commercial area. The use and value of the adjacent properties included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Additionally, since our quasi-residential use property at 89 Mass Ave is, to the best of our knowledge, unoccupied and not used as a residence, granting the variance in this situation would not nullify or derogate from the intent of the zoning bylaw. I have a letter of, authorization. Oh, I'm sorry, and it's signed by Mary Bentley on April 22nd, 2021. There is just following information that they have provided. Route 2A of Massachusetts Avenue is a heavily traveled Massachusetts state highway such that it can accommodate large volumes of traffic. With a recent estimate of 20,000 cars per day, both 88 and 89 Mass Avenue properties are situated directly on and face Route 2A, and both properties are located in a commercial zone. In addition, the quasi-residential structure located at 89 Mass Avenue is, to the best of our knowledge, unoccupied and not used as a residence. Therefore, granting of the requested variance would not be a detriment to the public good or derogate from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. I have also received a memo from Adam Burney that was dated June 1st. This project is subject to subject 254.15 of the code of the town of Lunenburg. The project will, excuse me for 1 minute. Sorry about that. The project will still need a host community agreement to be signed between the applicant and the select board. Furthermore, the project will require approval from the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission for provisional license. When the grant of such, the applicant will be required to apply to the Lunenburg Planning Board for a special permit for the use and a site plan approval. Excuse me for 1 minute. Okay, I also have a letter from an abutter. To whom it may concern. I'm an attorney at law with an office at 79A Massachusetts Avenue, Lunenburg, Massachusetts, which is located next to the property at 89 Massachusetts Avenue. And upon my personal knowledge of the facts described herein, state and affirm that since the death of Ernest Junkler on September 21, 2005, and continuing it to the date of this letter, the house at said 89 Massachusetts Avenue has been unoccupied and no person has resided therein. And that was dated the 2nd of June, 2021 by Thomas C. Gustafson of 79A Massachusetts Avenue. I also have a letter from the building inspector dated May 13th. I have reviewed the application and have the following comments. The property in question is parcel ID 76-2, listed as 88 Mass Ave. It is in the commercial district. The applicant is requesting that front yard setback relief be given, allowing for a potential marijuana retail facility in the future. Section 254.15J requires marijuana retailers to be 250 feet from residential uses and districts. The applicant would be required to obtain 71.1 feet of relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals under section 258.3B2D. The applicant would also be required to get a special permit and site plan review from the planning board, as well as obtain a host community agreement with the select board in order for this use to be allowed under the zoning bylaw. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Excuse my dog.
And with that, I would ask the applicant if he would like, first, just one thing, was one note. David, I see you joined us. So David Blatt is here. So I'm just want to make sure because we have to know who's voting at the end. So where is, okay, so Tony, I think as an alternate, David is here now, so I think he'll be voting on this case.
It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me, Mr. Chair. It's, I mean, I can ask my questions and I trust Tony's judgment.
No, I'm good with it. You can take it, Dave. I'm good
Oh,
with it.
so neither one of us want to vote? No, I'm only kidding.
No, I don't
Okay,
mind
I'm
voting,
glad
but
we
I
vote.
mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm good. No
It's
problem.
the
Don't worry
pecking
about it.
order. It's the
Okay,
pecking
all
order.
right, all right. I feel like a guest today. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. And with that, I would invite the applicant to address the petition.
Yes, yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Bentley. I also have Attorney Constance Mahalik here as well with me. And thank you very much for looking at our petition. And I apologize right off the bat about the mix-up in indicating that we wanted the variance. We do want the special permit, obviously. And I also want to thank you too for continuing this meeting. Unfortunately, there was an illness, and so we really appreciate the fact that you've continued it for a couple of weeks for us. I just wanted to say a couple things quickly, and Attorney Mahalik may want to say a couple things too. This property, so we're looking at putting in a retail adult use marijuana store in the rear unit of 88 Mass Avenue. I know I had included some maps in the application, and basically this really wouldn't be seen from the front of 88 Mass Avenue. The entrance to the retail store would be on the side of the building. I also wanted to mention that with 89 Massachusetts Avenue, as Lisa read, Attorney Gustafson, who is at 79A Massachusetts Avenue, which is directly across from 88 and directly next to 89 Mass Avenue. I have actually been trying to contact Cynthia Gagney, the owner of 89 Mass Avenue, and we haven't been successful in doing that. So we did reach out to Attorney Gustafson because it appeared that the building was not occupied. And he did confirm that. Apparently, Mr. Junkler, who he references in his letter, was the owner of 89 Mass Avenue. And once Mr. Junkler passed away in September of 2005, and apparently Attorney Gustafson did represent Mr. Junkler So that's why he knows this information. And he said from 2005 until now, that building has not been occupied as a residential use. Apparently, it's more of a storage facility at this point. The owner is just storing items there, but it's not occupied for residential use. I also want to add too that 79A Massachusetts Avenue, which is Attorney Gustafson's office, Fallon Animal Clinic, which has been there forever, as you all know, at least 50 years. They share a common driveway with 89 Mass Avenue. So again, it's just a very heavy commercial use area. I don't know, Attorney Paul Hollick, did you want to say anything else?
I want to, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is, hi, my name is Attorney Constant Pahalik. I represent Greenleaf Botanicals. And I, first of all, based on how the application was presented to the board, I wanted the board to specifically understand that this is for a dimensional variation and not for a variance. So if this application is defective as far as on its face concerning variance, this is not for a variance. And we, at this point, if the board would feel that we would withdraw this application to correct this so the board understands this, but it was specifically referred back to the bylaw and the request for a dimensional variation. So I want to make sure that we understand that we're not here for a variance. It is for a dimensional variation, but we're willing to continue or to correct the application for the proper language with dimensional variation according to the bylaw.
Okay.
That would be the first thing I wanted to bring up in front of the board's attention. Because we understand it's, and we are not here for a variance. We're here for a dimensional variation.
Okay, thank you. I would ask Casey, the building inspector, if he would, what he would prefer to do at this point, along with the other board members.
I think that the application is okay as it stands. It mentions a special permit in there, which is what they need. Special permit for dimensional variation, so I don't have an issue with it, but it's up to you guys.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna ask the board how they feel, if anybody feels that they should withdraw and reapply, or can we act on it as is? And we can change it to a special permit for dimensional variation.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an issue with it. I think you guys satisfied the question I had, but I do have just another follow-up question for the building inspector since he's on. Regarding the property across the street that they're saying is residential, did the property card, I thought it had, is it a resident, is it zone commercial, is it residential? Like, can you give us a background on that parcel right there that's within the 250 feet?
Yeah, so it's a residential use or a district. So in this case, it would be a residential use. I don't have a property card in front of me, but it's a use or a district according to the bylaw for marijuana retailers.
Okay, I noticed they keep referring to it as quasi-residential. Do you have a meaning for that, or is?
The reason we say quasi because this is it's in a commercial zone. This building sits in a commercial zone, number 89 Massachusetts Avenue. That is the reason we specifically say in the common driveway is shared with Fallon Animal Clinic. It's also shared with the law office that's there at 79A. All of the buildings are surrounding this location is commercial. Everything to the left, to the right, and across is commercial.
But it's still a residential.
It is a building, I understand what the field card says, but it's in the commercial zone. I mean, I know we're talking about semantics here, but I mean, this, if, for instance, if I leased this building out from the property owner, I could probably opened up by a law office or an engineering office or any type of business at that particular location, which makes it I think it differentiates the point from a residential use where people are actually living in houses that would abut or would be across the street from this commercial district. So the surrounding area is commercial, and it is commercial in that area. But for we're talking with the field card,
Okay,
that is why we were requesting the variation because of this issue.
so in a sense, you're almost saying that the residential is like, instead of, a business being in a residential neighborhood under spot zoning, this is almost, you're trying to say this is a spot zoning of a residential in a commercial district.
It is unique in that respect, yes. I mean, but for this issue, that we would not need that's why we're requesting the dimensional variation. Because if I answer the questions, is the specific site an appropriate location for such building? Answer, I believe that 88 Massachusetts Avenue is an appropriate location for this building because of the area that it surrounds. It surrounds all of the commercial in the area. It's on Route 208. It also has appropriate parking, access, and obviously we would have to develop a site plan with the planning board. The planning board would actually have to grant a special permit. But prior to all of that, the the board of select board would actually have to grant a host agreement. We would have to be approved by the Cannabis Control Commission. We would also then at that point have to go in front of the planning board for the special permit, and also have a appropriate site plan that would be compatible with the neighborhood. The proposed building would be compatible with the existing neighborhood because the proposed building at one point was a rental center, and right now presently it's vacant. However, there is a barber shop and there's a ceramics studio there, and the improvements that would be made to this building would actually benefit the neighborhood because there would be renovations to the building, and if the planning board allowed landscaping, etc., it would actually upgrade the present property that's there. So it would not adversely affect the neighborhood. As far as available light, air, sunlight, and other amenities to the location, it would not. It's in the rear. It would not have an impact on any of the light, air, sunlight, and amenities. In a marijuana retail store, it does not emanate any type of an odor. There's scrub busters and special HVAC systems that take away any smell. And this is not a manufacturing facility, nor is it a growing facility. This is a retail store. You would equate it to, and I know it's obviously since it's a new to the Commonwealth, equate it to a liquor store or anything, or a controlled substances store such as liquor, alcohol. And as far as being a nuisance or serious hazards to vehicles or pedestrians, the traffic flow that would actually occur from this particular location, Route 2A is Mass Avenue is a heavily traveled road. Now the actual parking and the size of the egress and entrances to this location would not pose a serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. And as time goes on with these particular facilities, in this particular circumstance, we're talking probably at least a year and a half to 2 years away prior to this establishment, if all approvals were ever granted by all the boards, and including the Cannabis Control Commission. By that time, there'll be a substantial amount of facilities in the state actually operating, and the traffic will be minimum. It will be similar to your local package store. So to answer the questions are as far as all the requirements of the subsection concerning more than of 258.3. But for the 71.1 frontage that we're requesting, I feel it, in my opinion, and obviously I represent the applicant, that this would be appropriate location for this type of facility, and also in the town of Lunenburg, it would be appropriate location.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, if I could, the building commissioner has a raised hand. I don't know if that was on purpose or if that was to mention something.
It was on purpose. So I just wanted to clarify the use versus the district. They put that in the language of the bylaw to capture older properties that are in districts that they no longer fit in because they're non-conforming properties, but they still exist and there's still that use. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
If I could just say one comment, Chairman. No, we understand, obviously, we had looked at the bylaw, and thank you, Casey, for pointing that out, that it is considered residential use of that particular property, 89 Mass Avenue. But as Attorney Pollock mentioned, apparently, and according to Attorney Gustafson, this property has not been occupied. It has not been used as a residential property for the last almost 11 years. It is not a property that has a family in it. It is not a property that has children in it. So, we're hoping that, the board will grant us this dimensional variation based on that reason. When we originally looked at this property, 88 Mass Avenue, to lease the marijuana establishment, the Unit 1, we actually didn't even see that building because it was behind trees and so forth, and we were completely unaware that it was even considered a residential use. And the more we investigated it, we realized that no one is living there at all. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions from the board? Dave?
Mr. Chair, I'd like just a little clarification. I tried to look at the map and I'm a little confused. The actual zoning of this area, I know that the building we're talking about is a commercial district. How far along does this commercial zoning district on all sides of the building extend? Does the commercial district extend the 250 feet from the building in all directions? I guess that's a question, if I could, to the building commissioner.
Yes, it extends all around 250 feet.
Okay, so it just happens to be that as Lunenburg, as an old town, there might be houses that were on Mass Ave at some time.
Right. Well, I think it's worth mentioning that there's two different residential properties. We're talking about across the street and there's one next door to it.
Right. Understand. Yes.
Well, I don't want to mix the two up. There's two different. One of them's an older house. It's kind of torn down, and the other one's still a building.
Okay. Right. So across the street's the one that's abode, and the one that's next to it has kind of been sitting there for many years in disrepair. Type of thing. Okay. Okay. And then the other one is for the applicants. You guys mentioned about the traffic and things like that. Are you talking? Is this your first establishment, or do you have other establishments in the state of Massachusetts?
I represent other establishments in the state of Massachusetts, and I can, as far as, so I'm able to give you a good indication as to traffic. I mean, typically in a facility with a location like this, you could have approximately 12 customers an hour.
Okay.
If you open from 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, Usually these facilities are not open past 8 o'clock at night. They're not open prior to 10 o'clock in the morning. That's also strictly a negotiated point with the town, and typically in the host agreement, typically also in the special permit that's granted by the planning board. Some of these facilities are appointment only basis, where with the software is sophisticated enough where their people would have appointments where they could come in and purchase their products. So the traffic controls can be controlled by appointment only basis, with some allowed retail hours. So as far as control of traffic, that's and also there's security, and the security is typically there is a parking enforcement security that is with the establishment. So there would be somebody in the parking lot that would be controlling if there was any traffic or any issues. And that's also a condition of a special permit. And if any of those conditions are ever violated in a special permit, that special permit could be taken away from the applicant. So it's very strict the way, so if I could answer the question, I mean, so it's not just a free for all, the traffic is just going to appear and there's going to be lines of people and lines of cars.
Okay, so the other question you mentioned about hours, but I'll get back to that in a minute. One of the things we have is there are strict signage. What is the intent for signage on this? Is it just on where the entrance to the facility would be, or would there be plans to try to do something in the front of the facility?
There would be, there's a sign, an existing sign there, a small sign, so the name would be added to that sign in the front. And then also on the rear, there'd be a small sign, obviously to indicate that Greenleaf Botanicals is there. So the customer, when they park in that parking lot, they're going to see the sign on the building that would say Greenleaf Botanicals. But nothing flashing, no LED flashing, nothing such as that. Very not inoculant. It's not, and further, most of the business that's derived in many of these, most of these stores is basically internet driven. There's a software called Dutchie. There's a software called Greenleaf and Leafly. Most of the customers are pretty much internet savvy, and they go on the internet. They know that there's a store in Lunenburg. They know their hours. They make their appointments, or they'll come into the retail store. The address of 88 Mass Avenue is there, and as long as it says 88 Mass Avenue, Greenleaf Botanicals, that is enough. But it's not. It doesn't have to have large. There's none of the facilities have large signage, and we're also that's also requirements with the Cannabis Control Commission, along with the local city or town special permit that would be granted.
Okay, and then I'd ask of the applicant. You guys mentioned hours. What is your intended hours of operation? Is it in truly as much as 10 to 8, or and the question is on the weekends?
The weekends, the hours are less on weekends. Typically, a Sunday would be more like 12 to 6. A Saturday would be 10 to 6. So it's not longer, and a Friday could be a 10 to 8. The weekdays, 10 to 8, 10 to 7. And that varies on the day. There are even some facilities that are closed one day a week on a Monday. So the hours would be varied, but I mean, they would be reduced as depending on the day, but weekends would they be less, especially on a Sunday. Sundays would be a day that there would be limited hours.
And if I could just add too, obviously we want to be a good neighbor to the town of Lunenburg, and we're more than willing to work with the town of Lunenburg, and certainly don't want to create a nuisance or anything like that with this. So as I said, we're more than willing to work with the town and satisfy the town.
All right, and like I say, this was more of just for research,
Yes.
to just understand what you were thinking,
Yes, well,
Ms.
that,
Bentley. Yes. No, on this.
Certainly.
Any other questions from the board?
I just have a question to the board. So we've established that this is a residential use in a commercial district, correct? The property itself, the one across the street? The issue I'm having is that this is a brand new bylaw, right? The town passed it, the planning board went through their due diligence and came up with 250 feet of frontage that has to meet. And now the applicant on the first get-go is looking for basically a 25% relief from the setback because there happens to be a residential structure in a commercial zone. And I don't know if the applicant has given a good reason as to why me personally would want to vote for that, given the fact that the town has spoken and the planning board did their zoning requirements and says, hey, you have to be 250 feet from a residential district. And, you know, the speculation that house is vacant, whether it's been or not, it's a tax-paying property, I assume, otherwise the town would own it. And how do we know that is not a residential unit? And therefore, marijuana establishment has to be 250 feet from it.
Okay, thank you, Hans.
But in this circumstance where I was saying it's a practical difficulty in the bylaw, and it's a necessary burdensome because of all the reasons why we stated this issue. We produced some evidence from an adjacent landowner that basically, and he also probated the estate of this particular property. I personally did a walk of the property and drove across the street to the property, and the building is almost like a storage building. It's just filled with, if you saw the show The Hoarders, it's similar to that. It's just filled with nothing. It almost is as bad as the property next door, which is an abandoned property. And I understand where you're coming from there. But.
So just to the applicant, Mr. Chairman, what prevents your client from going to somewhere else in Lunenburg that doesn't meet all the 250-foot setback?
I guess the question is there a place in Lunenburg that doesn't meet that?
But that should have been that should have been researched before they put the bylaw into effect.
I know from just looking at different properties, it has been very difficult to find a commercial space which meets this bylaw. To tell you the truth, we've had a lot of difficulty, and we've looked at a lot of different spaces. We've talked to Adam Burney at length, and he has been more than helpful. So it has been very difficult to find a property. We thought that this particular property fulfilled everything until we realized that the house across the way was actually listed for residential use in a commercial zone. But like I said, upon further investigation, and obviously we don't want to impede on a residential family. We don't want to certainly impede on children in a residence and so forth. But this particular residential use property is not inhabited. As Attorney Polholic said, there's no one that lives there. It's fairly dilapidated. There's about 3 unregistered vehicles in the parking lot. So that's why we're here tonight. We're seeking relief from that.
You say they're unregistered vehicles, but I don't know whose car it was, but I went to visit that site twice, and both times it was a car there were cars that were unregistered towards that garage area or whatever. But both times I went there was a registered car in the driveway. Now, I don't know if it was somebody from Fallon or that works there or whatever, but there was a registered car in the driveway.
I agree. I actually have taken a couple trips over there, and I've seen 2 different cars that are parked at the end of that driveway. I don't know for sure either, but I'm assuming that it's related to either a customer at Fallon or an employee.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just have one quick comment, and I kind of agree with what Hans is saying. This bylaw passed at town meeting. in 2019. So, everybody had a chance to come up and, speak their part on it, change it, adjust it. And then, before that, for a year, maybe 2 years, the planning board was beating it down too, with, Monday meetings where everybody was allowed to, come and speak their piece. So I struggle with that part, that, that I do feel like this is what people wanted, and it was written by an elected board and then passed at the, town meeting. So I feel like opportunity was there to adjust it, and this is what we came up with. And I'd also bring up the point that Hans said that, if the person is paying taxes on it, I can't, question whether they keep their kids there or their high school trophies. It's their house, and, they get the same rights as everybody else that pays taxes. So that's just my thought. Yeah, that's all I get to say.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I just.
Chairman?
Yes,
I tend to agree with the comments, that just because someone doesn't live there, or we don't know what the estate is, or the state of the estate of the Junkala family, today in the news, regardless, or in regards to taxpayers moving out of state, it's all hypothetical. If we pass a law saying something in 5 years, taxes will be more for the wealthy, that's one thing, but it's neither here nor there. We're voting. We have to look at the facts of where things are, what they are, and how they're constructed for the way they are today. That house is a residential property. It may be within the commercial district, but we recently allowed for a new residential property to go into a commercial district also. So I agree with Patrick that the people 2-3 years ago spent hours, actually weeks and months, researching and trying to establish what the best situation is. And the zoning is, the language is very specific. The distance shall be measured from the nearest portion of the marijuana establishment structure to the property line. Well, the nearest portion of the marijuana structure or building structure, establishment structure, is not necessarily from the inside wall, it's from the building itself. And if we consider that, then it's probably closer to 100 feet, not 179 feet from the property line. So I think that's a consideration that we have to look at. This is what it is today. It's not what it's going to be. We don't know. But this is what the rules are. This is the way it is. This is who has it. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Jim. It's funny because I had taken out this here, and I was actually gonna ask the building inspector. And I read the bylaw, but is it normal to measure from inside a building to the property line and not from the outside of the building?
So this has actually been a debated topic with me and Adam. So the way we kind of look at it is it's the building itself. You really can't start measuring portions of the building because lines can change in the future. So it would be the exterior wall of the building that's nearest the abutting residential use or zone.
But you're talking about the inside wall, that on this print that they gave us, it's the inside wall of unit 1 to the property line is 178.9 feet. So
That would equal out to the 71 feet, but I would agree with Mr. Bizarowski that it should be the building itself, not a unit of the building.
correct. That's was my thought process as well.
That's,
Okay. Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Are there anybody in the public that would like to speak, Patrick?
Yes, I do have one hand raised right now. That is Tanner Cole.
Okay,
Good evening. Tanner Cole, 856 Mass Ave, currently serving as the chairman of the planning board, but commenting tonight as a citizen with just two quick comments. One is that the 250-foot setback was discussed at length when this bylaw was developed, and it revolves around the fact that a daycare facility cannot be located in close proximity to a marijuana establishment. And the concern with that would be that daycares are protected by Chapter 40A, I believe it's Section 3, where they're protected from zoning requirements. So you can put a daycare anywhere in town, just like agriculture is protected. Daycare facilities are protected. And the concern was that we would have a competing situation, because if you have a home either at 76 Mass Ave or 89 Mass Ave, and at some point somebody wants to operate a daycare, the presence of the marijuana facility would not allow them to do that. Such was the case with the Reliant Medical building that sits just down the street. The Montechusett Opportunity Council was looking to relocate their offices there a couple of years ago, and because the marijuana retailer was across the street and they provide daycare services, they weren't able to use that property because they didn't meet the setbacks. So that was our concern as we discussed that topic. And I'm not representing the opinion of the planning board, but I was involved in that discussion and just wanted to kind of give the background behind it. The other comment was that there isn't a lot of space in town that's zoned for these uses. The reality is Lunenburg is limited on commercial and industrial space for all uses, not just marijuana, but the entire industrial district, Pioneer Drive, Powell Stone and Gravel, Keatings, Leominster, Shirley Road, that's all zoned properly, and those properties down there would certainly have an easier time meeting the setback requirements because there aren't nearly as many residential uses on that end of town. And then the entire commercial district, but unfortunately, our commercial district does have some residences, and we just wanted to protect those uses. So thank you.
Great, thank you for your input, Tanner. Okay, are there anybody else from the public that would like to speak, Patrick?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dave Rogers. I live at 82 Highland Street in Lunenburg.
That's Mr. Rogers. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a few comments if I could.
You may.
I'd like to give a little. I'd like to give a little history. Excuse me. When the planning board deliberated on the bylaw that we're talking about right now, there was a movement afoot that they wanted 500 feet. And during the discussions and the negotiations, it was brought back to where it is right now, 250 feet. And Mr. Cole, the previous speaker, outlined that very correctly. The issue at hand is one thing and one thing only. Is in fact the 250-foot buffer zone, so-called, to be adhered to. And the fact of the matter is that the proponents have tried to say that the residence in question is not to be considered, which is wrong, because it is a residence. The fact that it's not occupied as a residence right now is not germane to the issue. It is a residence. And in addition, from a historical perspective, this has been a residence for as long as I've been in town, which is some 48 years. In addition, Bob Fallon, God rest his soul, was a wonderful veterinarian, and he initially lived where the attorney is now. So the fact of the matter is this: the issue is very, very straightforward. Okay, the first requirement that must be met for the special permit is that the permit may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. The intent and the purpose of the bylaw is crystal clear. The other thing I want to mention is that there is some talk that the unit up front facing closest to Massachusetts Avenue, it's been purported or reported that that might be a pizza shop. Well, you talk about daycare centers and what have you. I certainly would not want, to see young people going into this pizza shop if it happens, and right next door is the marijuana shop. The last point, and who I think it was the building inspector or the commissioner made was right on. You don't measure from the inside closet or backside wall or what have you. It's the building, because it's all part of the demise premises, because there's parking that's ancillary to the use of that building. So, I mean, that is not correct. And I hate to be so crass, but Ms. Bentley's inability to do the due diligence for the company should not be construed as our problem. The law is very, very, the bylaw rather, is very, very specific. And I would hope that the request of the people would not be granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the board.
Thank you for your input, Mr. Rogers. Okay.
If I could just respond, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Rogers that just spoke. It's actually Dr. Bentley, Mr. Rogers. And if I might add, we did do due diligence. We've been working on this since last September. As I said, Mr. Bernay, Adam Bernay, has been extremely helpful. We've had many conversations with Adam. Adam actually, we were in contact with Adam. We told him about 88 Mass Avenue. At the time, he said it looks perfectly fine. He did not realize, as I mentioned earlier, that this particular building, 89 Massachusetts Avenue, was even there because of all of the trees and so forth that were surrounding the property and that were preventing it at the time from being seen from Massachusetts Avenue. So as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Rogers, due diligence was done in this situation, and we have tried very hard to work with the town of Lunenburg. And whatever the decision is tonight, and obviously I am a doctor, I'm pretty aware of what's going to happen tonight. As I said, I'm satisfied with what we did. We tried to present our case. As I said, we certainly do not want to impede on any type of residential use property, if there's a family there, if there are children there, that would not be correct, that would be wrong. But in this particular situation, there's no one living there. If you go to the property, as Attorney Poholic said, it's basically being used to store items. So thank you very much for your comments, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else, Patrick?
I don't
Mr.
see any
Chairman?
other. Oh,
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
I would like to respond to Dr. Bentley. I apologize, Doctor. I did not, in any manner, shape, or form, want to. I didn't realize that you were a doctor. All right. Had I known that, I would have addressed you as such. So please accept my apologies, and I'm sorry for the not using the right introduction to you.
No, it's accepted, Mr. Rogers, and no problem at all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, Patrick, that would like to speak from the public?
I don't see any other hands up. There's some, everybody looks muted. If I may, Mr. Chair, can I ask one question? Is that?
You may.
So if we were measuring 250 feet off of unit 1, but if I'm understanding what the commissioner said, that it's supposed to be off of the, you know, the closest point to Mass Ave, does that change anything as far as, maybe no one even knows, but does that change anything as far as, does that put anybody else in the same, you know, predicament? Does that add more than 89?
Casey, would you like to answer that? Yeah, I believe it.
I can't answer for sure. I'd have to look at the zoning map, but there is a residential zone in back of the Fallon Animal Clinic, so I'd have to look and measure it out and try to, you know, the GIS maps aren't totally accurate. They can be off several feet, but, you know, you'd have to get a survey to tell for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Any other questions from the board? No more questions from the board, and there's no more public comment? Take one more look.
Look,
I don't see any other hands up. There's a pretty good list of people in here, so I would ask that if anybody does have anything to say, that go ahead and unmute yourself, and if you're having trouble getting your hand raised or whatever. I don't see anything, but
could anybody hear me?
Yes.
Would the board consider a continuance on this matter so that we may speak with the property owner of 89 Massachusetts Avenue to explain to the board what her intent is or what she's doing at that property? Or is that, I mean, we have not had success with getting in touch with her. I know we've tried. That would be the only other piece of evidence that we really is bringing up that particular property.
I kind of feel that we've kind of beat this around, that it is residential. I don't know, like it's been pointed out, somebody's been paying taxes on a residential home since apparently 2005. And I agree with a lot of the board's discussion here tonight. So unless any other board member would like to entertain a continuance. Anybody have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I have no problem continuing it if they wanted to talk to the owner or try to locate the owner. I don't know in my mind that it would change the difference that the bylaw is the bylaw, and our job is to enforce it. And you know, you don't have the 250 feet of setback that you need. But I would grant them the continuance, just a courtesy to see if they could get a hold of the person and see what the, you know, what the deal is. But just to say that this property is abandoned and, you know, go ahead and think about approving this, I think would not be prudent.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Hans. I would entertain the ability to let them have a continuance. Who knows, maybe that becomes a viable property for them if they wanted to. And, if they wanted to pursue that, I don't know. I think that property is actually closer to the 250 feet from the road when you finally look at it. So,
I think it's much closer because the 178 feet is from the wall of unit 1, which is, I don't recall because we've already divided this and I know the front area is quite a few feet. So
right.
you would have to add that to the footage.
Yeah, but possibly the residential building is a viable building for them. I don't know. I mean, I would like to let them explore. I would like to let them explore other options because I do understand the predicament there that yes, this is a commercial. It's zoned a commercial district.
The only other issue I have on the bylaw is if you read it, it can be ambiguous as to, is it the unit or is it the building? I mean, it can be argued either way.
But either way, you're asking for a relief on the.
Right, no, I understand that part, but I'm saying we talk about the unit.
Normally, from every case, we've never had an interior wall.
Okay.
I mean, you could say, okay, we're going from here and then say, oh, our business is great, we're expanding, and change the wall. So we've never gone from an interior wall to my knowledge. Okay, any other thoughts from anybody else? So, I guess where we are then, 2 of you spoke that you would allow a continuance to see if they can work anything out. I don't think it's going to change anything. I personally would act on what we have in front of us, but I'm leaving that up to the board.
I agree that if they want to pursue anything on their own, they are at liberty to do so. They could still choose to buy the property and see where they go from there.
Okay, thank you. Dave, Patrick.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion that we continue the hearing until date and time specific.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay, who said no?
me.
Patrick.
Okay. Dave, did you?
I said aye.
You said aye. I'm gonna say no. So with that, it's 3 out of 3. You needed 4 out of the 5, so we're gonna continue with the hearing tonight. So with that, I would accept another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we deny the special permit dimensional variation by the fact that they don't have the 250-foot setback.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Nope, just kidding.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, first.
All those in favor? Hans?
Aye.
Dave?
No.
James?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So it is 4-1. So the special permit is denied. I do say that a copy of the board's decision shall be filed with the town clerk within 14 days. And any party aggrieved by the board decision may appeal to Superior Court within 20 days after the decision is filed with the town clerk. And with that, I'm sorry, but the relief has been denied.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Do we have any other business to bring up before the meeting tonight?
I don't think there's anything. Lisa can answer that. I don't think there's anything.
We don't have any meetings scheduled moving forward. So there's not anything for the end of the month or for the foreseeable future.
Okay, excellent.
Guys, I gotta ask, I just gotta ask, has anything been done for the Oliva property? That thing is such an eyesore and it gets worse every time I go by that. I mean, I thought we made a decision there and there was something going on there, but I feel bad for every resident of that neighborhood right now. We made a decision and it just sits there as an eyesore, getting worse.
It does, you're right. Is Tony still with us?
No, apparently not, but that's definitely a question for the zoning enforcement officer. So I would give him a ring tomorrow.
Okay, I was gonna say, Tony, I believe, lives right in that area, right across the street or right in that area.
He does.
So I was gonna say, I'm sure he can give us an update. Okay, with that, I hope everybody has a good summer.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I was gonna say, you all want to stay on and chat?
Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Don't get to see you guys that often, you know?
Okay, that's
Are
true.
are we
Next
back in
time,
town hall?
possibly.
You have a motion as closed, with second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, good night, everybody. Have a
Good
good
night.
summer.
All right, thanks, Al. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See
Good
ya.
night.
Take care.